The following program is sponsored by Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County. This episode of Mosaic is brought to you in part by the Stacy and Mark Levy Center for Israel and Overseas.
Welcome to our 46th season of Mosaic. I'm your host, Susan Shulman Pertnoy. Mosaic is Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's weekly news magazine, exploring the most critical issues facing Jews here and around the world. The events of October 7th, 2023 shocked the world. Today, we'll hear from 3 survivors of these brutal attacks, hear their stories, and learn about the family and friends they lost. Up next on Mosaic. We're so proud to celebrate our community visionaries, donors who contribute $1 million or more, serving as an inspiration for all of Jewish Palm Beach. Welcome back. Today, we're honored to be speaking with Shai Weinstein, a survivor of the Nova Music Festival in Israel last October 7th. Shai, welcome to Mosaic.
Thank you for having me.
You went on vacation to Israel in April of 2023, and what happened?
I just enjoyed myself too much, and I decided to stay. You know, my cousin, he hosted me for the first 4, 5, 6 months. After I decided to stay, I just, as I was getting myself established, I just stayed at his for like 7, 8 months.
What were you doing during that time?
Working through the immigration process, getting all my paperwork done, getting my bank account, getting my medical set up, getting, everything you need when you move to a new country. And also, looking for work, looking for an apartment so I can stop sleeping on my cousin's sofa. And just, enjoying a new life. I basically started from zero. I went there with my luggage, clothes, camera, and that's it.
Well, did you have that idea in your mind? I mean, I know you're from Canada. And tell me about your family.
So my mom is from Israel. Her family, they're all Israeli, Moroccan mix. And my dad, his family, they're American, Polish Jews. And so my mom left Israel at a young age, came to North America, and that's when she met my dad.
So obviously you have your cousin there and you have other family members there, so you feel very comfortable in Israel. Is that why you stayed?
Very much so. My cousin, he's definitely one of the main reasons why I ended up staying. He's just the best person ever. He introduced me to my entire friend group at one party he hosted at his apartment the next day, which I had no choice but to participate in because I was sleeping on his sofa. And ever since then, it's just been amazing, everything.
So then how did you wind up at the Nova Music Festival? Have you ever been to a music festival?
So I've never been to a music festival before. It's not really my thing. I love concerts. I love seeing live music. But in Canada and North America, like what I've seen at festivals didn't really appeal to me. It's like thousands of people up against the stage, and it's dirty and it's gross and it's muddy and there's garbage everywhere, and all the food is expensive and all the beer is expensive and flat, and it's just like, it doesn't appeal to me. And that's what I was expecting. And a friend of my cousin's, who he was neighbors with, one floor down, comes over and invites us to this festival. He says, me and my friends, we're hosting this festival. It's gonna be huge, the biggest in the country. We want you to come. And so from that point on, we're deciding, who's gonna go and what's the plan.
And wasn't that a holiday weekend?
Yes, it was over Shabbat, it was over Simchat Torah, it was over, what was it?
Sukkot?
Sukkot, again.
Wow. So you had celebrated Sukkot, and then you drove. What time did you get to the festival?
So we celebrated Sukkot. We went to a friend's apartment for her birthday that night around 11 midnight. We all got ready to go to the festival. We went to her place to celebrate her birthday with her because her birthday is October 7th. And then we left for the festival. Me, my cousin, his girlfriend, and some other friends. 6 of us left to the festival. 2 of our other friends were already there. They'd picked out a camp spot for us. And we got there around 2 a.m., 2:30 roughly, give or take. We were there almost the whole time.
And what did you do when you were there? Tell us about the atmosphere there.
It was amazing. It was totally not what I was expecting. You know, I told you I was expecting it to be totally unenjoyable. I was expecting to just be sitting around waiting to go home for 6 hours, and that was that. But, you know, we get there and we see, you know, even in the lineup, waiting to get in, waiting to get our wristbands, waiting to get our bags checked, this huge line, everyone's laughing and joking and having fun and chatting with each other, and it's like a really good energy. And we hear the music coming from the festival ground, and, you know, the closer we get, the more excited we get. And we get into the forest. I say forest, but it's like trees this thick. We get into the forest and we see all throughout the woods, from right to left, top to bottom, all the trees are lit up with yellow lights, and everybody has their camp set up because it's an overnight festival. Everyone's smiling and laughing and joking and smoking and having a good time, you know. Not one person there was not enjoying themselves.
Take us to that moment, I think around 6:30 in the morning. I mean, you arrived around 2, so for 4 hours you're partying and photographing people. And then what happened at 6:30 in the morning other than being exhausted, I would think?
So around 6:30, just a little before 6, most of my friends left the main stage, went back to our camp to take a rest and to chill out before the sunrise set comes on, because at these parties, like, sunrise is the headline. Whatever the best DJ is, he's playing at sunrise. So that's what everyone was waiting for.
So what time was sunrise?
It was supposed to be around 6:30. It was around that time. And so half my friends are there. My other friend, Eleanor, she's at the main stage. And she's still dancing, and she texts me like, hey, everyone left to the camp. I'm waiting for you. We'll head back together. So I head back to the main stage, and I'm looking for her. And I hop on a FaceTime call, like, I'm by this, you know, trying to find each other. And eventually I do find her, but it's because 10 or 15 minutes had passed since then, and the rockets began, the music stopped. The DJ comes over the speaker and says, you know, red alert, rockets, party's over. Security starts ushering people towards the camp area and the parking lot.
What was going through your head at that minute? I mean, you're from Canada.
Yeah, the moment the rockets began, I wanted to leave. You know, if I was there alone and I didn't have my friends with me, and, you know, I didn't have to consider others, and I was just totally alone, I would have gone right away. I would have left my stuff, I would have just been out of there. But, you know, I couldn't do that. I have 7 other people I'm with, and we got to our friends and we're talking about, you know, what's going on, what do we do we stay, do we leave, you know, what's happening? And many people there are Israeli, not all of them, but many. Especially if they live in the south, they're used to rockets. It's not abnormal. 1, 2, 3, 5, and then you continue your day. So many people were not really worried about being struck by rockets because they knew they weren't targeting us. They knew they were targeting the center of the country, you know, Sderot, Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion, Petach Tikva, etc., etc. That's where they're shooting. So we're not really worried about being targeted, just stuff falling on our heads. And
did that calm you down?
No. My heart rate was pounding. And me and my friends, we eventually decide we'll pack up our stuff and we'll go. But, you know, we have to pack up. As I'm walking back, I hear the sound of gunfire far away. And I tell my friends, and nobody can really agree on what it might have been. We make our way to the parking lot. And just before we finish loading up our car, that's when Hamas arrives. We heard this machine gun fire, all of us, not just me this time. Everybody heard machine gun fire. People were screaming, you know, mechablim, terrorists. It was total chaos.
And so how did you keep it together? What did you do?
So me and my friends, before that all happened, we decided I would drive because I just don't really drink. I had 1 beer the whole night. So I'm driving 3 of my friends, Barak, Elmog, and Doraz, at their own car. Me, my cousin, his girlfriend, and our other 2 friends in 1 car.
Wow.
And when Hamas arrives, I'm flying down the dirt path, trying to get away. Like, my only thought is, great, my friends chose me to drive. The only responsibility I have is to, like, get us out. I don't care about anything else. We're driving a 4-door Mitsubishi Lancer, a sedan. It's not a Jeep, it's not a truck, it's not a Humvee, it's not a SUV, it's not an off-road vehicle. And I see all these cars, and I just decide to drive off the road and pass them.
Wow. So tell us what you did next.
after seeing the traffic jam of people trying to leave the festival ground to go to the main road, I just decided to drive around them and make my way to the main road. And once we made our way to the road, the northern part of 232, the main road, was blocked by police because Hamas was in that direction, although no one knew.
Right.
Police knew, but we didn't. And they were turning people the other direction and into the fields to try and help them. Unfortunately, the people they turned in the other direction, further south, were directed into Hamas unknowingly.
Oh my goodness. Did you see any of the remnants of the massacre that happened?
So after we got into the fields and we were shot at from behind, from the festival ground, they shot into the fields at all of us. We fled our car, we ran into the fields, and we just ducked. We just ducked low because we saw open fields. Where were we going to go? And my cousin, he stops running. He runs back to the car, gets in the driver's seat, and comes back to us and picks us up, and he probably saved our lives. And so from that point on...
Wow.
And from that point on, he's driving. But the only thing he can focus on is driving. I'm helping him navigate, his girlfriend's helping navigate, and we're figuring out like what to do. And now that I'm no longer the driver, I take my camera back out, and I start taking photos, and I start taking videos, because, you know, if we die, at least there's proof.
What did you see?
So, between the Nova Festival and the city of Netivot, thankfully nothing. The girls in the back, because they were free to look around and they weren't really responsible for doing anything, they were looking around and they probably saw more than we did, because my cousin and I were just too focused on navigating and driving. But the moment we got to Netivot, driving through fields for 35 minutes, from Netivot to Sderot and then to Tel Aviv, it's at that point, as we got further away from the festival site, we started seeing carnage. We started seeing bodies littered across the road. We started seeing cars abandoned, cars crashed, cars riddled with bullets, bodies inside them, bodies around them, and it was surreal. You know, these are people who look like they're my age. They don't look like a corpse you see at a funeral.
Well, how would you even know, what exposure would you have ever experienced that?
The only time I've seen bodies is like, you know, in cadavers or in a funeral. But this was not that. This was people who still looked like they had color, who looked like they were my age. You know, saw a man in his car with a hole in his face. And, you know, we had to drive over bodies to escape, because the whole time we thought around every corner there'd be someone waiting to shoot us. Around every abandoned vehicle we thought there'd be people hiding, waiting to ambush us. Every time we saw IDF, we had to have a conversation like, do we run them over? Do we drive by them? Do we stop for them? Because we didn't know. Because we knew Hamas terrorists were dressed as IDF, pretending to be checkpoints.
Wow, so you must have been moving on adrenaline, because the terror is so overwhelming, and what you're seeing, I'm assuming your eyes couldn't even believe what you were seeing, or your brain couldn't believe what your eyes were seeing.
It was like I was a passenger, like in myself. I don't know how to explain it. And I was watching everything mostly through my camera lens. So like nothing else existed except for what I was looking at.
So how long did it take you to get to safety?
We were really fast. Like my cousin drove like a bat out of hell. We got home to Tel Aviv, in South Tel Aviv, at 9:47 in the morning. Really fast. 3.5 hours roughly after the terror attack began. And, you know, my friends, Barak, Elmal, and Doraz, were hiding in the woods, laying in a bush for over 6.5 hours while Hamas terrorists gleefully killed people around them.
Will your life ever be the same?
No, I don't think anyone's will be. Everyone's life was changed. Israelis, Palestinians, Lebanese, everybody's life was changed by the decision Hamas made that day. And the decision they made was full well knowing that it would cause damage to thousands and thousands and thousands of lives.
I appreciate everything you're doing, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Your message is very important.
It's important that it's heard.
When we come back, more from these survivors of the October 7th attacks. Stay with us. One of the best ways to combat anti-Semitism and all forms of hatred is through education. Learn more about the complex issues that lead to hate at jewishpb.org/standuptohate. Welcome back. Joining us today are Asher and Itamar Levy. Their family was killed in Kfar Aza on October 7th. And we're going to discuss this with them, which is a tragedy. First of all, Asher, tell me about yourself.
Okay, thank you first, Susan, that you invite us. My name is Asher. I'm 52 years old from Israel. I'm a musician and creator. I have 3 kids. Itamar is the oldest. And Shira and Emmanuel. And on the 7th of October, the tragedy started.
Yes, so it was the Sukkot a holiday, and you had Shabbat, which is the Sabbath, and I'm assuming you all went to bed that night, and you woke up. How did you hear about what went on?
Okay. On the day before, it's like a holiday, and my mom and my father planned to go to Kfar Aza to celebrate the Simchat Torah and the kite festival that my brother-in-law Aviv used to make every year. And day before, my mother didn't want to come. She said, "I'm tired." This is what saved her life, their life. My father he woke up at 6 o'clock to go to the synagogue, and then he saw the siren because the siren was all over Israel. And then he came back, just tried to call them 6:30 a.m. No answer. No answer. From 6:30. So the minute we know about all the sirens, we call them because we know that in Gaza envelope, I mean, we have to know if they okay, but no answer from 6:30. And then all the Israel was in like a chaos.
Yes, yes.
No communication. You cannot talk with nobody. Nobody knows. No ambulance. No nothing. We sit at home and trying to get information from friends of my sister that live in a kibbutz or any connection just to know what happened. But nothing.
So how long after it started did you find out about what happened to your sister and her family and what exactly did happen?
We tried to collect any information and after 4 days, friends of us tell us that they found them. But we didn't tell our parents because we didn't get an official answer. And just after 10 days, on the 17th, there was a funeral. Just on the 16th, they come from the government or from the army, and they told us the official, this is them. I don't know how to tell it, but we were like in a nightmare.
I'm sure.
That you don't know, but it's not going. You don't wake up from this one. You have nightmare, and you wake up, and here you always
seeing if it's really real. It's the cruelty and the barbarism was so beyond anybody's imagination that this could even happen. So how do you move forward with this? How do you live life?
All the Jewish here in Israel, in the
United States,
they bring us so much love to us, to the family, to all Israel. It's so it's warm in the heart,
Why, you're obviously in the United States here speaking about what happened. Why do you do this? Why do you do it?
I think we need to tell all the world about the thing that happened in the October 7. Not really everybody knows the real tragedy and the real. It's like the Holocaust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That people in their house and all the houses burned. Yeah.
Burned.
Yes, they burned people alive. Yeah. They did massacre communities. It's just so horrific.
Burned and rape and kill violently. I mean, in the way that even to give them the title monster, it's a compliment for them. They kill us not because we want territories. They kill us because we are Jewish. This is the most painful, and you see it all over the world now. It's like before the Nazis. And I feel it here also, scary. I mean, I hope that you will be okay, but I feel that the Jewish community here are a little bit afraid.
The Jewish community here is
safer
strong,
than, yeah.
is strong, and
Strong,
we
very strong.
have a lot of non-Jewish allies and friends, and we just have to keep the story going and explain how unjust this is. And by you coming to the States and talking all over, it keeps it front and center, which is very important. It keeps your family's memory alive and the lives of all that were tragically murdered. So I appreciate everything that you do, and I'd love to hear your music. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much.
Our discussion of October 7th and its aftermath continues. We'll be right back.
The Activate Jewish Life movement is a first of its kind, intends to connect with families with children, to connect with teens, to connect with young adults. However people want to engage with Jewish life, we want to make sure that we are providing them with an opportunity to engage in ways that have relevance and meaning for them. What an opportunity we have to change the face of Jewish life.
Welcome back. Joining us now is the chair of Federation's Israel and Overseas Committee, Brian Seymour. Brian, welcome to Mosaic.
It's nice to be here.
I should say welcome back to Mosaic.
I'm very pleased that you had me back. Thank you very much.
I want to talk to you. We've been talking to the survivors, some of the survivors of October 7th, and you've heard their stories. And you've actually stood on the grounds of where the atrocities took place. So why is it so important for Federation to keep these stories alive?
Well, there are a lot of reasons. The simplest answer to that is because people move on too quickly. The new news cycle, the new question, the new issue, and that's without even having to deal with the fact that people are willing to lie. People are willing to distort reality for their own gains. And it's a lot harder to argue with someone who'd been there, someone who's seen it, and having had those conversations, meeting with the families, you can't, it's impossible to truly explain, but that you have to do more. And the more we get people to understand what really happened, the more we have a chance to actually start dealing with what really happened based on facts.
And you actually had an unusual, really a unique experience, because you went to Israel with a lot of non-Jewish community members on something they call it a study tour.
Yes.
That was incredible. Tell us why that was so profound and enlightening.
So I've been to Israel, I think, 13 times. Other than maybe the first time I brought my kids, it was the most incredible experience in Israel I've ever had. Because these are folks who went with an open mind. They didn't have an agenda. They just wanted to learn, right? And these are people who have no reason other than they want to make sure they understand reality. They don't want to be told that, which is true leadership, right? They want to make sure they truly understand, and went in and asked some hard questions and really wanted to understand and watched as they've gone through the process of seeing the sort of reality as compared to what has been portrayed.
And what they had heard,
and what
right?
they had heard. Some of them from their own family and friends. And to say, you know what, this is not what you think. It was incredibly impactful on me, and many of them have used the exact same phrase, independently or together, but many of them independently. It was life-changing. And to be able to have that opportunity to, not to talk about Israel, but to show Israel, warts and all, right? It's not a perfect place, no place is, but to really understand what Israel is and the vibrancy of the people, the democracy, the strength of the Israeli people, the peace that the Israeli people truly want. When you're there, you feel, you see, and they're able to then bring that back and talk about that, and they've all been willing to do that. I mean, we are incredibly blessed with some tremendous leadership in this community who are willing to stand up for what's right and to make sure they know what that is.
It's also critical that we have the allyship of the non-Jewish community. We really are a small minority, and without that support, it's very, very difficult.
We live in a tumultuous time for the Jews. That's to put it lightly. We are very lucky here in Palm Beach County that we have the leadership, and it's not by accident. The Federation has spent a lot of time, not just since October 7th, but before, making sure that we were part of this community, that people understood who we were, that the value of the Jewish community. You know, we as Jews are always integrated into communities to do good. Right. And having that makes this a better place to live for all of us.
Absolutely. Getting back to Israel and your recent visits, including that one, what are some of the pressing needs that you saw over there?
So it's hard to imagine, but when you stand at the border in a kibbutz looking at Gaza, the trauma of just how do you go back to live where you grew up, where your family is, your home. Imagine if you lived in downtown West Palm Beach and someone came on shore in Palm Beach, went across the bridge and just started slaughtering everybody around you. And it could happen again. They're still offshore. They're still there. Imagine even always as far inland as about Ibis on North Lake. It's about 10 miles from the shore. That's how deep it got in. So now you have to imagine, how do you go back to that? But they need to go back to that. It's their homes. It's where their families are. The trauma is almost incalculable, and it's decades of work. But obviously that's something we need to continue to focus on. The physical rebuilding, remember we were there in November, one of the survivors said we need to rebuild, but it can't be rebuilt in exactly the same manner because our kids would see what it was. And so looking at the variety of things that need to happen. And in the north of Israel, you've had fires, you've had bombs that killed. So there's so much, and it really spans the entire country. We're going to have a lot to do for a very long time to make sure that Israel continues to thrive. And
Federation is already doing a remarkable job at supporting a lot of these needs.
I honestly feel incredibly blessed to have been in a position in this horrible time, but in a position to really help drive that impact and be a part of this. And having seen this federation come together, this community come together, has been just heartwarming and inspiring.
Well, the community is lucky to have you. So thank you so much for joining us, and continue to do what you do.
I'm here.
Thank you.
This program is sponsored by Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County.